Hi there, I'm Miss Ruth, and welcome to my English channel. Have you tried remembering lots of words but keep forgetting them? Or you remember them but you're not sure how to use them? Well, I've got strategies to help you build your vocabulary fast and put it to use. They work for me when I was learning beginner Spanish, and they work for my students when they were learning about new topics in my academic English class. But before I get into the details, please hit the like button, subscribe, and in the comments, tell me what else you want to learn. Also, sign up for my interactive English lessons at missruthsenglish.com, starting with a 7-day free trial. You'll improve your listening skills, as well as vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation for spoken English. So a major reason why English learners have trouble remembering vocabulary is because you learn the words individually. Schools, apps, and online vocabulary lists still encourage English learners to approach vocabulary this way, and it can help to some extent. But learning a language is not as easy as learning its separate parts. You have to learn how those parts work together to create fluent lines of speech. In my experience, the key to learning and remembering new words is collocations. Collocations are words that are frequently used together in a language. You often see them together. For example, the word high is often seen with these other words: very high, high quality, high speed, high standards, high levels. Collocations are important because they sound natural to the ear of the native speaker. Tall and giant are similar to high, but it'd be strange to say giant speed or tall standards. Even though they might be technically kind of correct, the native English ear is so used to hearing high speed and high standards that anything else sounds awkward or just wrong. So if you want to fit in with your English, it's important to use the phrases that are the most common. What makes learning collocation so effective is that you have the grammar built into them. So you don't have to worry about getting it wrong. To make a correct sentence, you have to learn what goes with what. You know, subject plus verb plus adjective plus object plus preposition and so on. But with collocations, if you just memorize the phrase, it takes the guesswork out. So the longer the collocation, the less struggle you have trying to find the right combination of words to use to get it correct. For example, a longer collocation with high is high demand for, like high demand for that product. Since I know the phrase is a collocation, I know I have to use for, not with, not to, for. So knowing a collocation helps me use the correct preposition and avoid a grammar mistake. And we all know how hard learning prepositions can be. In order to find collocations that are popular and in use today, pay attention to music, movies, TV shows, and the news. For example, I was listening to the news the other day, and a reporter said, "reach an all-time high," when she was talking about a record being broken. Now that's a good long collocation. A good English learner would notice it, but a great English learner would write it down somewhere. The secret to remembering vocabulary is an old one: repetition. And you have to write it down in order for you to see it again. Now, if you prefer to write things physically in a vocabulary journal, that works. Writing things down with a pen or paper always helps me remember. Or you can try a cool app called Quizlet. Quizlet is the tool that helped me master basic Spanish vocabulary. For those of you who don't know, Quizlet is an awesome tool for learning vocabulary or concepts. And the app has lots of activities and games to help you practice the same set of terms in different engaging ways. I've put a link below to my Miss Ruth Quizlet sets so you can see for yourself. So you've got your list of collocations. What next? How do you make sure you actually use them and in the correct way? Let me give you an example. In my writing class, I wanted my students to use more advanced vocabulary in their essays. So I created a speaking exercise with collocations. I put collocations related to a topic on little cards, and then I gave sets of these cards to groups. We went over the collocations before as a class. And then the groups, they had to choose a card and use collocations in sentences while having real, not just pretend conversations. This exercise was really effective because they had to write essays right after the speaking practice. And a lot of the students remembered the collocations and used them accurately. Even their grammar was better because they didn't have to think so hard about how to arrange the sentences since the grammar was built right in. And the students who normally had very basic vocabulary in their essays impressed me with using the terms and using them correctly. Now you might be thinking, sure, that works if my teacher does it, but what do I do if I'm on my own? Let me show you how this works. Open your collocation list in your notebook or on the Quizlet app and start making sentences in your head or saying them out loud. Now, I know it might sound kind of silly and you might feel self-conscious talking to yourself, but I promise you, this strategy works. Language learners always think they need a conversation partner to improve their speaking skills with. And that's certainly true eventually. Because if you're having trouble thinking of the right word and you're always checking your translator, or if you can't form a few simple sentences, then a conversation partner can only help you so much. You need to build a certain level of basic to intermediate fluency. And that means you need to learn common collocations, popular phrases and sentences, and sentence structures for basic topics, so that you'll have something to draw on in order to maintain the conversation with the other person. And guess what? The good news is you can do that building of basic vocabulary all by yourself. My personal example, before meeting with my Spanish language group, I would make sentences with my collocation list. So I warmed up my mind with collocations, phrases, and sentence structures before I arrived at my conversation group. And I actually found it made it easier for me to think of the right word at the right time and help me come up with whole new sentences because I was just using parts of the language I already knew. It's not just repetition that helps you remember vocabulary, but creative repetition. You see, I took it a step further and I created variations of the sentences I already made. This improves your brain's ability to improvise. And improvising is really your ultimate goal because you want to be able to speak without so much effort and preparation. Improvising requires practicing with your imagination so that you can be able to use the parts of the language you already know creatively and on the spot. Let me show you how this could work. Let's pretend I was listening to an English podcast and I learned a collocation, the highs and lows. It's a kind of expression that means the good times and the bad times. I can make a sentence with it. Life is full of highs and lows. And I could create variations of that sentence. The highs and lows of life are what make it interesting. Now I'm putting life after the collocation. His career was full of highs and lows. Now I'm using career instead of life, a different noun. The highs and lows of her singing career are what made her life fascinating. Now I put career after the collocation and I'm using an adjective. Fascinating. The highs and lows of running your own business can make it stressful. Now I've changed the noun to an activity and I'm using a different adjective, stressful. I think you get the idea. This kind of imaginative sentence creation is great for the language brain. And it gives you lots of material to draw on when you eventually have that conversation with a native speaker. If you want to learn and practice collocations, don't forget to check out missruthsenglish.com, where each of my interactive lessons teaches you individual words and collocations, like phrasal verbs and expressions used in ordinary conversations. That's it for today, folks. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, and tell me what else you want to learn in the comments. Stay tuned to Miss Ruth's English Podcast.